We are all prisoners. Prisoners to a collapsing economy, a broken society. We have lost our way, and with it, our culture and our heritage. The vast majority, the average American, wouldn't even know how to take care of themselves without electricity. People in the third world still know how to do a lot of things that we don't know how to do. And we insult them as if we're more intelligent than them. We're more wasteful. We have the most money in the whole world compared to the third world. And yet we're lost to a whole plethora of self-preservation knowledge. Things 100 years ago that would be common knowledge. Like, how many Americans know how to start a fire without a lighter? Let's say even with a lighter. How many Americans know how to do simple maintenance on their automobile, like change a starter? Even though I'll give you a lot of modern automobiles nowadays are highly complex and they're not as easy to work on. They're designed to be that way. So you have to take them to a service center to have them worked on. But how many people know how to change a tire? How many people can change their own tire on their vehicle? How many people can change their own windshield wiper blades? We have become so dependent that if any natural disaster was to befall our society, people would run into the streets, stock raving mad, attacking each other like cannibals. I laugh all the time when I see these zombie apocalypse movies and different things like that, as entertaining as some of them are. I think that there's no possible way that will ever happen, except for the fact that if you imagine the masses, as in people in the inner city, cut off from electricity, from their narcotics, from their alcohol and things like that, I bet you hordes of them attacking the suburbs would look like a zombie apocalypse. These are things I think about all the time. I live outside of a major city, the capital city, Lansing, Michigan, and I think about that all the time. What would people do in the suburbs if everything collapsed and the people from the city, after using all their resources, ravaging cities and sacking grocery stores and gas stations and looting everything, what would they do next? Well, it's easy to figure it out. They would, after all the resources in the cities were exasperated, they would move into the suburbs, probably like house by house, taking everything everyone's got, including their lives. That's why I think it's important that people are armed. They're able to protect themselves and their family. It's important also that you make connections with your neighbors. It is. At least get to know them, know the ones that you could probably trust in a situation. And that's where things become hard, because you got to be able to judge one's character, and not all of us are good at that. And let's be honest, not all the times does that work either, because people are dishonest. I think it's important that if you're going to have stuff like that for yourself, like caches of food or firearms or stuff, for the most part, other than your friends and family, you probably don't tell anybody about it. That way, if something bad does happen, people don't look at you like you're the next Walmart where they can get everything they need, a one-stop shop, get their food, get their guns, get their ammo. You just painted a target on your back. It's been a long time since I've made a survival video, and I really like these videos a whole lot. As you guys can see, I share the military survival video from the 1950s, which is basically all you ever need to know. The last time I shared it, I called it RH Negative Survival Manual, or something like that. I share things like that with you guys because I want you guys to realize that the future is not certain. Anything could happen, nothing could happen. But it's important for you to be prepared and ready for if something crazy does happen, if not for you, but for your immediate family, your wife, your children. I mean, I'm sure you guys care about your families, and you want to be able to protect them and take care of them. And let's be honest, for those of you out there who are thinking, hey, I've never even shot a gun, I don't even know if that's something I want to get into, you can go to a firing range and you can rent several different types of models of firearm and try them out for yourself. And for those of you out there that never have you heard of the adrenaline high that runners get when they exercise? That type of thing. Maybe some of you are familiar with that who have played sports. That's the kind of rush that you get when you shoot a firearm. It is exhilarating. It is fun. It's enjoyable. At least for me. I'm sure opinions vary. But I always enjoy practice shooting my firearms. And that's the thing. If you're going to own a firearm, it's worthless to just buy one, shoot it a couple times, and forget about it. You need to go out on a regular basis, at least at first every weekend for at least a month or two, so you figure out exactly how it works. You figure out how to clear stovepipes. You figure out how to clear jams. Then you'll be ready to use it in a circumstance. You see, the whole idea behind this, which a lot of people don't go into, is you want to get your muscle memory down. Because when shit hits the fan and someone's attacking you and your life's on the line, your adrenaline's going to be kicking and you're going to be pumping and you're probably not going to be thinking the clearest. So it's good that you have muscle memory. It's like riding a bike. For those of you who don't know how to do that, this analogy won't fit for you. But for the vast majority, when you know how to ride a bike, everyone's been, like, I'm in my mid to late 30s here. I grew up in a different time. People that are in their early 20s, you know, SJW, millennial land, I'm just teasing you guys. You guys probably didn't have to deal with so much. Like, I was talking to my kids the other day. I was like, I remember when I was a kid, I grew up in a little town where I was in the middle between a whole bunch of kids that were younger than me, like way younger, and a whole bunch of kids that were way older than me. So, like, when I was 10, I was trying to hang out with, like, 15, 16-year-olds, and I was kind of like their crash test dummy. You know what I mean? I wasn't the kid in the neighborhood that one of the kids actually shot. Thank God I wasn't hanging out with them that day, because I easily could have been. But, yeah, I grew up in a different time. Like, I told my kids, I had this one bully growing up who would chase me down on moped, throwing dog shit at me. And what really I don't know if he ever hit me. I don't think he ever did. He only did this a couple times. But what really used to blow my mind about that whole situation in particular is that he had no qualms about touching dog shit, putting it in his hand and driving around with it and then touching his handle on his moped. There really are some sick-ass FUC gays out there, ladies and gentlemen, so you gotta watch out. I don't think it's so much as when we were younger, because nowadays more people are scared of, you know, living in SJW land, political correctness and all that. So I'm not sure how often, like, kids get beat up with baseball bats in the middle of the street in white suburbia. I'm sure stuff like this happens in urban areas. It always has. It probably always will. Because let's be honest, most people, including the people who live in these areas, don't care. Most of them are pretty selfish. And that's sad, because you can see that when people are willing to destroy their own communities. And you better bet your bottom dollar, if shit hits the fan and society ends and the power grid goes down and the power doesn't come back on and the trucks stop rolling and the food stops coming in, these people don't care about their own lives and their own communities. They sure as heck will destroy yours and your community. And that's really dangerous, because some of these other communities would survive. Like in the town that I grew up in, it wasn't uncommon in the late 80s or early 90s for someone to come to your door and knock on it and ask to borrow a loaf of bread or some milk, things like that. You have any eggs? Stuff like that. People helped each other out with little things like that. I don't find that to be the case nowadays, and I think you have to keep that in mind too, like the mindset of the generation that we're all living in. And basically, if shit did hit the fan, you'd be on your own. You could trust your family, maybe some family friends, things like that. But even people like that could turn on you. I mean, that's something you gotta wrap your mind around. When I think about survivalist movies and all different types of things like that, I think about the movie The Road. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this movie, but it actually won awards, and it was written by a pretty decently famous author whose name does not come to mind, which is really sad too, because I read the book because I liked the movie so much. And if you do like the movie The Road, it was actually banned in some movie theaters because the thought was it depicted the collapse of human civilization so well as that they thought it would drive the masses crazy and it helped perpetuate a collapse. It's interesting. You can Google it. You can read about it. It's a highly entertaining movie that was done really well, and it's basically about a gentleman and his wife and his son who live through the collapse of society. Years later, events happen, and then the father has to go out with the boy. They live in up north America, and they're trying to get to southern, more warmer locations, and it's about all the things that they come in contact with, rows of human cannibals, all kinds of levels of depravity and everything else. And that's why I think it was banned, is because it was so realistic that people couldn't handle it. I mean, I watched it and I was like, oh my God. It put yourself, if you're a father, if you have a son, I recommend you watch this show. This movie, it basically gives you an idea of what you have to prepare for. That's for sure. A possible eventuality, at least. It could be. Because if things do collapse, who knows how that would really go. I mean, this day and age, a lot of people have solar panels and wind generators and things like that. It just makes you wonder how people would choose to help each other out. That's really what the number one most important thing is if you can help someone, you probably should. Because that generosity in a situation like that will probably mean more than anything you could do for someone in a stabilized situation that we're in now. Because, I mean, society collapsed, there's not going to be any rescue shelters to go run into. And if there was, I sure as heck wouldn't want to be in one once that actually collapsed. That would be crazy, too. Your best bet would be a cabin in the woods where you know how to grow your own food, where you can actually harvest plants for medical needs. So you would want a book that you would want books on these, backyard medic, backyard mechanic, backyard this and that. You wanna basically have a bunch of books around that you could do all the things that you realistically think, the bare minimum, which you think you would need to live. You need to have those skill sets, those knowledge bases already before shit hits the fan, guys. And I don't even know if this video will be popular, because when I share videos about survival situations, most people could give a damn. But trust me, if it happens, you're gonna be. And I think the likelihood of something like that is like 25-35%. So I think 70% or so likely this will never happen. But I still think there's a significant, like 1/3, 1/4 possibility this could happen, especially with today's changing political climates. I mean, we have all been weaponized against each other so much. It's so disgusting. I'm a big fan of William Cooper, rest in peace, William Cooper. But basically what he said, what many other people have said throughout history, is that the people that are running this show just want to divide and conquer us. And it was getting too hard for them there around 9/11. They realized the best way to get rid of that whole situation is an influx of migrants from third world countries with different cultural, religious practices and everything else. Because, if you can't keep the masses distracted enough so you can keep going to the bank, you got to find up new ways to distract them, guys. And that's exactly what's going on here today. And it's crazy that a lot of people don't see this. I fight with people that I've known for years since I was a kid on Facebook about political issues all the time. And I'm assuming that they think I'm a hardcore Republican or this or that. But no, I'm a hardcore supporter of unbiased truth. And people talk about all kinds of ridiculous things. Like, I just got into a fight today with someone on Facebook. I mean, I don't consider it to be a fight, but I'm sure they do. They're acting like it is. They tell me that my information's not valid, this and that. It was talking about an article where Snopes released that the Obama administration was putting kids in cages. And that's what I tried to tell them. It alludes to in my last video, Everything's a Rich Man's Trick. is that George Soros funded the Clintons. They actually started all that. And not only did he fund Obama, but Obama subsidized a whole bunch of George Soros' political movements like Black Lives Matter, Anti-Tifa, Open Borders, which is all these illegal immigrants. George Soros paid for all of these things, guys. And he's trying to fulfill the collapse of our great nation that me personally, every generation of my family has served in some military engagement, some costing their lives. My Uncle Roy actually died in a foxhole in World War II. And I think about his sacrifice and things like that. If some of my relatives could see what is happening to our country today. I'm not hating on foreigners, guys. I have a Spanish last name. My last name is Kao. I mean, that's not the whole point. The whole point is there's over 7 billion people in this world and 5 billion below the line of poverty. We take in close to 1 million refugees every year the last couple years, and every year those same 3 to 5 billion below the poverty level of economics people produce about 80 million babies, birth versus death, 80 million new lives every year. We take 1 million as if that's doing something. The 1 million people that we take happen to be the best people that they have to offer. People that, if left there in these countries, would probably help rebuild them out of just their own personal discontent. They would probably help transform their nations into some better things. But we take these people and bring them here. Not always is the circumstance of late, but in the past it used to be. Now we just open arms, take refugees. There have been Muslim terrorist Al-Qaeda suspects that have slipped in the borders, the southern border, crossing into America. People think that's crap, but it's true. People are bringing drugs in like crazy, and not just cocaine and heroin, guys. There's a new drug called fentanyl that's killing people at alarming rates. The number one cause of death in America right now is drug overdose. And I've had several friends pass away over the last couple of years due to this fact. And it's sad because a recent friend who passed away, I'm pretty sure there was fentanyl that was the reason, like, because they've been cutting this fentanyl into heroin and into cocaine, and come to find out it's like 100 or 500 times more addicting and more powerful. There's people just standing down the streets in comas, guys. On YouTube, Google this documentary, just fentanyl documentary. It's like 45 minutes, an hour long. It'll blow your mind. It's not boring. It'll give you a good idea of what's going on. Because I live in Michigan, and yeah, people do have their problems. It's mainly meth here. This fentanyl thing hasn't really blown up here. So when I watch this documentary, I see stuff that I haven't really seen here. Maybe in small segments and pockets in Detroit. But I haven't seen this really happen here yet. That's scary. And this is a synthetic drug that's coming across the borders into our country. And I don't understand why we can't all just agree to help these people where they live. I mean, I'm for that. I'm a compassionate, humanistic sort of chap, I like to think. You know what I mean? I don't want to see anyone suffering in pain. When I think about people suffering in pain and having horrible lives, I think about their kids, man. That's what really gets me. All children are innocent. No children deserve to grow up terrorized in a state of torment, living in some of these horrible third world countries where they're terrorized. I was just explaining to my kids, you know, the Nike shoes we wear and all these different things. There's children basically kept as slaves in factories that build all these different furniture, all these electronics, and all these different clothing that we wear. And we basically endorse that enslavement of these cultures. These same people, Democrats, Republicans, whatever, but amazingly, mainly calling out the Democratic and leftists here. These same people that want open borders, they have nothing to say about that. They support Colin Kaepernick, but they don't want to talk about how Colin Kaepernick's Nike endorsements basically endorse the enslavement of Asian countries with children's and sweatshops building all these shoes. And that's, I didn't really mean to get on this tangent, but what I'm really trying to get at here is we're hypocrites, man. There used to be a time when I remember growing up as a teenager and young adult where Republicans and Democrats could actually be friends. Like, it's scary to see what's going on. And we're all being used. We never used to be like this. Anyone who's my age can realize this too. And it's people that are not from this country. George Soros, mainly, and a whole bunch of other different people, but mainly him. He is the second contributing funder of the Clinton campaign when Hillary Clinton ran for president. I used to like Hillary Clinton. It wasn't until after the Benghazi thing and a couple different other things that I found out about that I actually took the time to look into Hillary Clinton. And I found some scary stuff about Donald Trump too. He used to hang out with Jeffrey Epstein. And Jeffrey Epstein also used to hang out with Bill Clinton. And Bill Clinton would give up his security service detail to go to that Jekyll Island. If you look up Jeffrey Epstein right now, they're taking him to court and suing him for, he's going to jail for prison for child molestation and things for things that happened on this island that Bill Clinton was going to the island with him too. So when Donald Trump says that he's abused women, boy, I think that's possible. I think it is possible that story could just be a smear campaign on Donald Trump, even though there's all kinds of questionable things about him and his wife and stuff. Like I said, I don't want things to be biased here, but I do take everything into consideration, and I just don't think a whole lot of you do that anymore. I think you get caught up in the American sports mentality of I'm left, you're right, but what if someone's neither? Like me, for example, I've supported people from each side of the political leaning. I even supported Ron Paul. I thought he was awesome, and I think we did ourselves all a big misjustice and disservice by not making sure that he was elected. He was a decent guy, folks. He's the last decent guy that I've seen run for office in years. When you have George Bush, Republican, he was part of the Skull and Bones, and then you have John Kerry, same thing, Skull and Bonesman, and one's a Democrat, one's a Republican, and then they come to find out they're related to on top of it all. I'm pretty sure you all guys could see that this system's rigged, right? And who knows? Maybe Donald Trump's just another puppet, just a little misleading thing to say the things that we want him to, that we want to hear, because he's saying them. But then again, I don't know. Like they said, that the president can launch a nuke at his whim, but he can't build a wall. I don't know what to say about that, but all I want you guys to think about is your families, keeping them safe, and just know that we're in crazy political times where at any moment people could start fighting in the streets, and that could be a society as we know it could end. And like Ronald Reagan said, guys, so try to be nice to one another. Try to stop all this from happening, because it possibly could. Read a history book. You know what I mean? Read many from different eras, from the collapse of Rome, the collapse of Persia, all these different large empires, which are foolish if you don't think that we are a large empire. But we're the last best place, guys. After freedom's gone here, there's no place to run to. There's no place to escape to. There's no asylum that we can go and ask for to some other country. That's it. Once we destroy this place, or let ourselves be divided and conquer and destroy this place, as our forefathers said, united we stand, divided we fall. And we can't just let people come into our country without permission. And it's not appropriate for segments of the population, small segments of the population, funded by billionaire George Soros, to divide and conquer us all, that they try to say that it is appropriate, because these same people would not just let people run off the streets into their home and have access to the things in their home. And that's exactly what this is. This country is our home. It's just ignorant to think of it in any other sort of way. We all live in our homes within a big home, which is our country, and we should not just let people have access to that. You're going to just let Russians come over here? You're just going to let anyone come over here who wants to come over here? This is stuff to think about, guys, that you're not thinking about. Anyway, I'm going to rest on this topic. I need to actually finish up the things I got to do for the day, but I want to touch bases with you guys. Look forward to me going live here in the near future. If you want more videos from me, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. Hit the notification bell while you're at it.